What's going on, guys? It's Pilot Flame and I am back, and today we are talking about the changes coming to Warrior in Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Shadowbringers. So we're going to be looking at all the different changes coming for Warrior, as well as all the other tanks, and then we'll go through all the different other jobs as well. But since I'm a tank main, I find it that it's best for me to do the tanks first. Specifically Warrior, which will be the job that I will be maining alongside Gunbreaker in the next expansion. So first of all, there's a couple of things that we should note about tanks in general. The way tank stance work is now completely different. So your tank stance, all it does is just increase the enmity gain on all of your abilities. Whereas before it used to give you different forms of defensive stats, or it used to be on the GCD, some are off the GCD. Now it's just a off the GCD 10-second recast where you can just use and as you so please. So typically tanks are probably just going to stay in tank stance the whole fight anyway. Nextly, we're going to take a look at the new tank trait, which reduces the damage taken by the tanking class or job by 20%. It also makes it so that any bonus strength or bonus vitality you have increase your overall damage as well as vitality, respectively. So basically, any bonus strength that you get gives you more damage. Any bonus vitality you get gives you increased HP on a different multiplier than any of the other jobs. Tanks historically have had to meld strength into their accessories or VIT, depending on which patch it was over the last few years, and basically have had to dump a whole bunch of money in over melding various different accessories. Now it should be a lot more easier, and we should be able to actually use the raid gear much like everyone else without having to meld accessories. All the way to the max amount of slots, unless it is in a prog scenario. And hopefully we can actually have our, what would it be, 430 accessories be BIS rather than having to have, oh, I have a 405 accessory or 410 accessory that's going to be BIS, and I can have to swap out my gear in order to get in the party, which is always fun and a bit of a laugh. Nextly, we're going to take a look at the kind of AoE line that all of the tanks have gone through. So every tank now has a two-part combo, and the second part does something different, more or less on all tanks. For Warrior, it is a combo off of Overpower, and the ability is called Mithril Tempest. So it is a 5 yalm radius around the Warrior, which delivers a combo potency of 200 and extends the duration of Storm's Eye by 10 seconds up to a maximum of 30 seconds. So if you do not have Storm's Eye up, it will not extend it, it will not refresh it, it will not do anything like that. It just extends it if it already exists. For Paladin, I believe it's Mana, and for Dark Knight and Gunbreaker, I can't really remember what it is. But for Warrior, this is really good because it allows you to use your Storm's Eye on your first pull, and then just use this ability a million times, and you'll always have it up. Which is very, very good for dungeon pulls. What does this also mean? This also means that you have a more powerful ability that hits multiple mobs at the same time that isn't your rage. So basically when you're trying to build up rage, especially with this ability here, which you get a trait at level 74, which allows you to get 20 beast gauge every time you combo this action off of Overpower. Which means every time you do 3 of these, assuming you have 0 gauge at the start, you get 1 Decimate or Chaotic Cyclone, which we'll come on to next. So Ffxiv is now an upgraded version of Inner Beast, as well as Steel Cyclone is the downgrade from Decimate. So Decimate and Ffxiv are your newer moves. Steel Cyclone and your Inner Beast are your leveling moves. They remove the healing capabilities off of Steel Cyclone and Inner Beast, and Ffxiv and Decimate upgrade from Inner Beast and Steel Cyclone respectively at levels 54 and 60 as normal. The new thing about these abilities is that they have an interaction with Infuriate later on. You get a trait at level 72 called Nascent Chaos, which basically allows your Decimate or your Ffxiv after you use Infuriate to gain a buff and be enhanced to Chaotic Cyclone or Inner Chaos. Inner Chaos being the upgraded Ffxiv, Chaotic Cyclone being the upgraded Decimate. So at 72 you get access to Chaotic Cyclone, at level 80 you get access to Inner Chaos. And what does this do? it will cost the same amount of gauge, except it's just a higher potency ability overall, and it still reduces Infuriate's cooldown by 5 seconds. Has the same recast time as the other two skills, and you get the buff for one usage only. So if you use Infuriate and then sit on it a little while and then use Infuriate again, it will consume the buff. The buff does not stack, so you have to go Infuriate, Inner Chaos, Infuriate, Inner Chaos. If I do Infuriate some GCDs down the line, then Infuriate again, I only get to use Inner Chaos once. So you have to use it as a one-time consumable. So you want to basically be able to organize your CDs around where you can get 2 of them off. Because obviously it's your main damage ability, and you typically want to use this in burst windows, which is how you want to do it. Another big thing is that it critically direct hits on both Chaotic Cyclone and Inner Chaos, which is a very big thing, because this means that you do not want to be using Infuriate inside of your Inner Release window. Reason being, Inner Release already automatically direct crits everything. So typically what you want to do is probably do some type of opener where you do Storm's Eye, using Infuriate as your first off GCD after your Tomahawk if you're pulling, or your Heavy Swing. Then using Inner Chaos after you've put your eye up, then using Infuriate again, and using another Inner Chaos, and then you hit Inner Release and go into your 5 Fell Cleave spam. That's how I see it going. Maybe some slight differences here and there, but we'll have to see kind of how it maps itself out. Nextly is the warrior's defensive side of things. So Raw Intuition got a big rework. It is now a 25-second, that's right, 25-second recast time, according to the tooltip from the Media Tour, that reduces damage taken by 20 seconds for the duration of 5 seconds. But it shares a recast timer with the level 76 ability that you receive called Nascent Flash. The tooltip reads, it gives you Nascent Flash to yourself and Nascent Glint to your target party member as buffs. Your buff restores HP each time a physical attack lands, and your party member's buff, party members being singular, restores HP equaling to 50% of the damage recovered of your recovery for them, as well as reducing the damage taken by 10%. And again, it shares the recast timer with Raw Intuition of 25 seconds. So this is super cool for off tanking. It was the ability that we saw in the job action trailer, where the warrior puts that like weird oddly colored bubble around the person standing nearby. And it's also super useful because you can be very flexible with it when you're off tanking. Help your tank take less damage while you can heal back up from the damage that you just took. Or you can use Raw Intuition for yourself if you want to be able to block some damage, and you just want a cooldown that's basically Rampart on a 25-second cooldown, or it's half a Rampart plus healing for the both of you on a 25-second cooldown. It's super flexible in that regard. Onto the minor changes. So we saw the removal of slashing off of Maim. Eye still retains its 10% increase in damage dealt. Thrill of Battle gets a trait at level 78, which basically increases HP recovery via healing actions on self by 20%. So basically you get the effect of convalescence on yourself. The cooldown was reduced by 30 seconds to a 90-second cooldown from a 2-minute cooldown, but now it only lasts 10 seconds. So it's a little bit, it comes up more often, but it is less in duration. Equilibrium also saw a change. Basically, it's just the Defiance version. There's no TP, so it just gives you the cure potency of 1200 on the same recast timer of 60 seconds. Shake It Off now does not have Inner Beast, because Inner Beast no longer gives you the 6 seconds of damage reduction, so you cannot use that to go towards Shake It Off. You can only use Thrill of Battle, Vengeance, and Raw Intuition. And since Raw Intuition is on such a low cooldown, you're basically going to be having a 12 damage max HP shield every time you use it. So overall, I think the warrior changes are super cool. They keep basically the identity of the warrior of being the super crazy berserker, with the ability to enhance that berserk mode using the likes of Inner Chaos and Chaotic Cyclone, while still being able to have some party-wide utility, co-tank utility, and overall just be quite flexible. The only downside to it now is that before it had this really cool, gap closer ability, but currently right now it sits on a 20 beast gauge cost and is only going to be typically used if you are going to be losing a GCD from the boss, or inside the inner release window where it's free. So hopefully they change that to maybe 10 beast gauge cost, or maybe even giving you base gauge. That would be a bit crazy. But overall, I think Warrior's in a pretty good squad. It still has the best tank suite in the game in terms of self-defense, and it has very good raid-wide utility while still dishing out a decent bit of damage. I will also be posting a link in the description below, which shows basically roughly from what we saw in the media tour, the amount of potency that we're seeing from all the tanks. I believe Warrior is a close third, just barely behind Dark Knight in terms of damage. But that all can obviously change. It's just speculation and theoretical rotations at the moment. So that's all for now, guys. Until the next one, take care.